As I said, it's a follow-up to last episode's story of Nancy Pelosi being denied communion for her unrelenting, unrepentant stance and vocalization on the killing of unborn children. So this one, Joe Scarborough. Now he makes a statement, Jesus never once mentioned abortion. Yeah, okay, that's what we're going to look at here. But let's break it down here. Let's give a little bit into the article. In defending House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, pro-abortion stances, MSNBC's Joe Scarborough suggested Tuesday that Jesus Christ was not against abortion. No. Every argument that they try to use about saying the Bible is in favor of abortion, that Jesus is in favor of abortion, falls way short. But we're going to see what his argument is. The MSNBC host accused pro-life activists of dragging the politics of abortion up into the altar of the church, noting that the Southern Baptist Church, to which he says he belongs, was effectively pro-choice until 1980. I'd have to know what church they are and ask the questions. He says effectively pro-choice. I have to see what that actually means, because that can mean something very different. This wasn't about Jesus, it was about politics. There was a rise in the moral majority in 1980, bringing abortion politics into the pew of Republican-leaning churches, he said. Now, the idea of moral majority, that's exactly what you have in our culture today. If the majority says something is good, then it's good. If a majority says something is bad, then it's bad. Now, the funny part is I teach youth, and they're definitely, a lot of times, I do teach youth. And they're not coming, you understand, the youth I teach aren't coming from Christian homes. But when I lay out the idea of moral majority, they definitely think it's wrong. They do. And in fact, I use this example a lot because it's a great one. The Holocaust. I said Hitler deciding to kill 6 million Jews. Is that good or bad? And I've yet to meet a person who said it was good. They all say it's bad. And I said, but in Germany, at the time, the people agreed to it. They were either indifferent to it or they agreed to it. The majority. I said, so the majority would say it was good, so therefore it must be good. They're like, no, it's still bad. And then the only argument you can kind of use against that is saying, you know what then? But the rest of the world, the majority of the world said it was bad. Okay, well, let's bring that into the idea of LGBTQ and abortion. The majority of the world says it's bad, whether you disagree with it or not. The majority of the world, whether you disagree with the way the world is, the way their world is, they say it's bad, so therefore it must be bad. But see, this idea of moral majority doesn't really work. It becomes subjective on society's wishes. That's really what it comes down to. And this is why, and I teach as well, on subjective morality versus objective morality. It's objectively bad. See, he's trying to play both sides here. He's trying to say it's subjective by the moral majority, and then he's trying to say it's objective by making an appeal to Jesus, whom he doesn't believe in, whom he doesn't stand for, and he doesn't really hold the Bible. So you get a double argument there, which doesn't really work. But we're going to break down his statement. Let's go. He says, Scarborough claimed that Jesus never once mentioned abortion in the Gospels. The most religions hold that abortion is the killing of an unborn child. What do you mean most religions hold that it's the abortion is the killing of an unborn child? That is what an abortion is. An abortion is. It's not that they hold. It's not like this unknown belief. They know that an abortion is the killing of an unborn child. He says, and then an abortion is against the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill. See, the first thing he has to do is dehumanize the person. And he says, now the Catholic Church, mind you, has focused on abortion a bit longer, he said. I guess it's in comparison to the church that he says that he belongs. I'm going to guess he's not a member in good standing by any shape or form. Or it's not a church that should really be calling itself even a Baptist church, because of the fact that a Baptist church is supposed to be known as a people of the book. They hold to the scriptures as the foundation. He says, but how disconcerting that religious leaders in the church would deny communion to faithful members of their congregation over a political issue that Jesus never once mentions in the gospel, despite the fact that abortion was both a political and philosophical issue in ancient Greece in Rome and while Jesus was alive. All right. Now, there's something at the bottom there I am going to mention because the Daily Wire puts something in that's important to understand for Catholics and understanding of communion. Now, he's making two arguments in that. And it's in that last piece that I just read there. He says that abortion was a political and philosophical issue in ancient Greece and in Rome and when Jesus was alive. Now, that may be true. Also, in fact, homosexuality was an issue. In Greece, I think Sparta definitely had it. Rome, definitely. Pedophilia was a thing in Rome as well. And Jesus never spoke about those things. Do you want to know why Jesus never spoke about these things? Because they already knew that they were wrong. They already knew that they were wicked and evil. Jesus didn't have to go over it and say it again. Jesus didn't have to say homosexuality was wrong. Why? Because he's speaking to a Jewish audience. You take a look at the congregation that Jesus is speaking to, the gathering. They came from Judea. They came from Galilee. They're Jews. They're Jews. What did the Jews hold? Leviticus 18, a man shall not lie with a man as he does with a woman. Such is an abomination unto the Lord. The Jews already held homosexuality was wrong. They already held that the killing of life was wrong. They would have already held. Now, you understand the issue of abortion. They didn't do abortion like we did today. When a Roman would do an abortion, what they would do is the child would be born. If they didn't want it, they just throw it into the street. That's what would happen. And do you know who was pro-life? The Christians. What did the Christians do? And you can find this documented in the annals. The Christians would go and pick up the child from the street. And they'd take them into the house. So yeah, the church, from the very inception, before there was what you can classify as a formal church, was definitely pro-life. So this idea that, it was in that day and it became a political issue, he's saying that it was morally right. Why? Because the Romans and the Greeks had this form of abortion, which wasn't the killing of an unborn, but the killing of an actually born child. They just didn't want anymore. And they just threw it in the street. He's saying therefore it was good because they already had it. No, it was already considered evil. Theft has been around for a long time. Murder is one of the first sins that is recorded in the scriptures. Does that mean murder is right? Cain killed Abel. So it's been an issue then. Does that mean it's suddenly right? It's not. So there's a bad argument there. And then it's this argument from silence. And this one you're going to see again after the break, and this idea of sex positivity, because there's going to be an argument that is made again. And it's one that I've seen over and over and over again. This issue. Jesus never once mentioned abortion. And I'm going to say, first off, that is true. In the scriptures and in our recorded history of what things Jesus has said, never once did Jesus say, thou shalt not get an abortion, or that an abortion is evil. Do you know what he also said? Jesus never talked about bestiality. Jesus never once talked about bestiality. Does that mean that Scarborough would be in favor of bestiality? Jesus never mentioned it. You know what Jesus also never mentioned? He never mentioned pedophilia. Is Scarborough in favor of pedophilia? Jesus never mentioned it. Isn't that fascinating? Do you know what Jesus also never mentioned? Prostitution. Never once did Jesus say, thou shalt not engage in prostitution. And prostitution was a thing all the way back. You go way back in the Old Testament. Rahab, depending on how the translation you get, they call her Rahab the harlot. In truth, it's more likely she was the head madam of a house. Is probably a better understanding of that, which means she herself was a harlot, but she's actually more than that. She was the madam, and you say, well, why would you know that? Because there's details that kind of give that away. The fact that the Israelite spies went there for information, because that'd be a good place to turn into, and the fact that she often is called the harlot. Odds are she's running a brothel kind of thing. So it's been around forever, but Jesus never mentions it. Jesus doesn't mention prostitution. You see, it's an argument from silence that doesn't work, and a lot of people want to use this. Well, the Bible doesn't say I can't do this. But what did Jesus actually say? Did Jesus talk about prostitution? Well, what did he talk about? The prostitutes needed repentance. The one who came and cried and wept on Jesus' feet and washed his feet with dried his feet with her hair. She was coming for forgiveness. She knew she was in sin. She knew she was. And Jesus gave forgiveness. How about adultery? Jesus didn't condemn the woman caught in adultery, but he does say, go and leave your life of sin. He doesn't actually talk about Zacchaeus being a cheat and a thief. But Zacchaeus knew that he was, and he needed repentance of it. You see, this argument that Jesus didn't explicitly mention something doesn't mean that it wasn't sinful. The other problem is we don't have everything Jesus wrote down. John makes this clear. If they wrote down everything Jesus said and did, there wouldn't be enough books in the world to contain it all. But it's a bad argument that often is getting used, saying that Jesus never mentioned it. So therefore, it's just a political issue. And that's it. But why is it? You see, as I mentioned in the last episode, I applaud this bishop. I may disagree with him on a lot of things, but I applaud for him on this one because of the fact that he's standing for something important. And here's the note. I just want to give this note that they write. To receive Holy Communion, which Catholics believe is the body of Jesus Christ, that's transubstantiation, it's the doctrine of transubstantiation, says one must be in a state of grace. What does that mean? Which means that an individual has recently gone to the sacrament of confession, they have to confess their sins, and confessed all serious or mortal sins, and before that must have fasted for at least an hour. Pelosi is standing up and saying abortion is a good thing, is what she's doing, despite the Catholic Church saying, and I agree with them, that it is a sin. She refuses to repent of it, and so they say, you can't take communion because you're not in a state of grace. And so they deny it. And this guy is saying, that's wrong, you can't do that, the church is wrong on this, and he says abortion is good, abortion is needed, and therefore the church is evil in saying it. You see where they're calling wicked good and good wicked. But here's the funny thing about it. This is coming from somebody who wants to claim they know the Bible, and they would say to somebody else, and this is an argument I've heard, and it really bugs me a lot of times when a lot of things are talked about. When they say, like, when you question things, be it if you question science treatments, you question data, they say, well, where's your PhD? Where's your thing on this? Where's your PhD? Where's your knowledge? And it's called an argument from authority, yet I see people just like Scarborough who want to quote the Bible, and I should have the authority then to say, well, where's your degree in biblical studies? Where's your degree in the languages? Therefore, if you're going to make an argument from authority on this one, I would have more authority than Scarborough. I'd have more authority than just anybody who just sits in the pew who's read the Bible. Why? Because I've got the education, I've got the degrees, I've got the papers, I've got the diplomas. And the reason it bugs me is because of the fact that they mark this argument as if they're the expert on it, and they show that they're not. Did Jesus specifically mention abortion? No, he did not. And the reason is because he didn't need to. It was already considered evil. It was already considered wicked. It was already considered something that should never be done. And yes, it breaks the commandment, thou shalt not kill. It really does. Because as I've shown, as much as they want to argue about the necessity of it, it really comes down to convenience. Then you say, well, I decide I can't afford it right now. I don't want to give up my life for this. I don't want to change my life for this baby. And it comes down to, I just don't want them, so therefore get rid of them. They want to kill them. It's amazing that people are upset about an issue, about families who say, you know what, I don't want a pet right now because they're costing too much money. And this may become a real thing here with inflation. Look, I've got a dog, and dog food for this dog is like, and people pay more than this. I pay like $60 to $90 a month in food for this dog, just a bag of food. That doesn't even include the flea and tick treatments, which are like another like $35 a month. And I got to take the dog to the vet for their checkup here recently. It's going to cost me more money. And with inflation and everything is going on, don't be surprised if you start hearing people like, I need to give up my pet. And people are going to fed about that. People are going to be like, you can't do that. They're part of your family. They're a living creature. And yet these same people would have no problem saying that a woman can just kill a child because it's convenient. You see, it's a bad way to be. The foundation that Scarborough is on is a horrible one. It's only the foundation of Jesus Christ, which answers these questions, actually brings it to light. Jesus says that all life is valuable. And he showed that through his ministry. From the little child to the woman, to the prostitute, to the tax collector, to the outcast, to the Pharisee, to the leaders, to the centurion. Jesus considered all their lives valuable and in need of salvation. Because all humanity, whether in the womb, out of the womb, are created in the image of God. And they're valuable. And so Scarborough is an issue he does not know anything about. You say Jesus didn't talk about it, but Jesus talked about life. And the baby is life, and thou shalt not kill. That's where we need to go. Hey, I just want to thank you for watching. If you like the content, want to subscribe, like, tell a friend, get the word out. Also, if you want more content, you can follow me on YouTube, on Rumble, or you can even download the Foundation with Steve Teed podcast and take me on the go, found on almost all podcast apps. This couldn't happen without you, and I encourage you, build on a strong foundation.